Hello, this is AstrologerCoach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in 16 degrees of Leo, which will be exact on August 8th at 9:50 a.m. New York time and 2:50 p.m. London time. Now, as best as you can, of course, with any new moon, get really quiet at the time of the new moon and see if you're getting any new messages or ideas. If you are, harvest them and fold them into your intentions that you want to be setting for this new moon cycle. And I will talk about this process later in the forecast and give you the very best and most potent time to do so. So stay tuned for that. And this new moon has a lot of aspects to other planets in the new moon chart. So feel free to use the timestamps below this video to jump to different parts of the video. Now, there are several planets that have importance in this new moon chart. Mercury in Leo is one of them. Uranus in Taurus, Saturn in Aquarius, Chiron in Aries, and Mars in Virgo. Now, Mercury aligns with the new moon in Leo, making mental engagement a very important part of our process for the next 28 days. Mercury also makes several other aspects in this new moon chart, including a yod, and this making it especially important for this lunation, right? So Mercury becomes a very important placement. Now, Uranus is not only exalted in this new moon chart, it also is once again the focus of a T-square. But more about all of that in a moment. First, let's talk a little bit about the new moon energies and the Leo energies in particular, right? Because the new moon is in fun-loving, extroverted, expressive Leo and has us looking for heartfelt experiences and active experiences. It's important for us to express ourselves, to learn about love, and in particular to learn about how those things work together to help us create from the heart and from a place of joy. So think about the keywords for this very self-expressed sign. It's a fire sign, right? Proud, generous, hospitable, caring, warm, authoritative, active, open, fun-loving. So if you hear these words, how could you live into these words for the next 28 days? Now, for more details about the Leo energy and access to all of the coaching questions from this video in written form, so you can journal on them or meditate with them, feel free to read my article about the new moon in Leo. If you're not yet a member of my online community and would like to have access to that article and also the full moon videos every month, feel free to check out the various levels of membership that are available on my website at astrologercoach.com. And if you're already a member, check your membership portal by signing into your account. And feel free to look there in the My Content tab. You will find the New Moon in Leo article there. And that will be available by August 3rd, the very latest, probably already before then. Now, please keep in mind that it is best to start working with the coaching questions of this video after the new moon has already become exact. So not before August 8th, right? Now, back to the new moon. As I already started to talk a little bit about this earlier, Mercury closely aligns with the new moon in Leo, and this encourages us to be more aware of our thoughts and exchanges with other people. Now, this planetary alignment in Leo encourages us to align with our heart, be playful and joyful. And we also get an opportunity to connect to our own inner child, but also children in general. So you might want to ask yourself with this alignment, what brings me joy? And not just in general, but in this very moment of now. Right now, what can I think about that brings me joy? And what drains my vitality, right? Because Leo is all about vitality, it's energy, it's fire, right? So what drains my vitality and what energizes me? Once we understand, what drains us and what energizes us, it's much more easy to gear towards joy and anything that feels energizing to us. Once we understand what the components are in our lives that makes us feel that way. But we have to pay attention to that. Now, what have I always wanted to say? Leo is very big on being expressed, right? So what have I always wanted to say, and who have I always wanted to be? Because Leo also is very much about who am I? Who am I being in this world? The beingness of things rather than doing or thinking things, but like, who am I being? How do I show up? And what if just for right now, just as an experiment, I met life with a courageously open heart and mind? So, of course, Leo is very courageous. So we are being invited to step into that courage with our heart, with our mind. Now, there are other Mercury aspects in this new moon chart that influence also how this conjunction or this alignment with the new moon, how we move with that. So, first of all, Mercury opposes Jupiter in Aquarius, and it also creates a yod aspect with Pluto and Neptune. So let's talk about the opposition to Jupiter first. So this invites us to find a balance between our need for fun and laughter, which is of course Leo, and social connections out there in the world, which has to do with Aquarius. Now, we're also invited to balance what we think we need to be happy and authentically ourselves, Leo, versus social expectations. For example, those coming from our networks, our communities, both online and locally. So that's more connected to Aquarius. So expect with a Jupiter Mercury opposition, we can expect a lot of talking and sharing and possibly some overthinking or impulsive communications. Impatience is likely a side effect of this aspect as well, especially since we're talking about masculine signs here. So as best as you can, take the observer position towards your mind. See what is actually going on. Like, how can I observe it rather than act on it or react with it? So ask yourself, what benefits might I reap if I started listening to my own thoughts 5% more without needing to do anything about them? And this is key, of course, because often we're so identified with our thinking that we feel like we need to act upon that thinking right away. But what if that wasn't the case? What if we didn't have to act on anything? What if we could just listen? Just a practice in listening. And might that contribute to having more joy in my life? And might I be able to see the bigger picture more easily from the observer position? So if we're zooming out and we're observing, can we see the bigger picture? And what role could humor play in all of this? Because let's face it, Jupiter is involved, right? So with Jupiter, can we laugh about it? Can we have a perspective that makes us giggle? Can we, enjoy what we're seeing? And of course, with Mercury also being in Leo, which Leo enjoys a good laugh. Now, let's talk about the other Mercury aspects that are a little bit more challenging possibly because they involve quincunxes. So quincunxes are aspects that signal inner discomfort and the need for some adjustments. And the yod aspect consists of two quincunxes, both pointing towards Mercury in Leo. So we have these two aspects from Neptune and Pluto towards Mercury in Leo, making Mercury, of course, the focus of this aspect. And this means the adjustments in question must be made so we can share ourselves authentically from the heart, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because, Mercury in Leo by itself wants to be self-expressed, wants to share and be authentic. But because of these quincunxes to Pluto and to Neptune, there might be a little bit of a trepidation there, might be a little bit of maybe feeling a bit uncomfortable internally to be able to do that full out. So given this, for the next 28 days, ask yourself, what do I hear when I listen closely to my heart? And what do I need to express that is dear to my heart, even when fear is present, even when it feels uncomfortable to do so? And how can I be courageous in my communications without dominating the conversation? And could I permit myself to get in touch with my inner child and communicate my truth when appropriate? Remember, children often say things also when it's not appropriate. But with Mercury and Leo being the focus point, we are being invited to pay attention to that. So paying attention to, am I saying things that are inappropriate, or can I say things when it is appropriate? And could I refrain from getting attached to things going my way? Because of course the Mercury in Leo sometimes wants that. It wants to, be like, no, I want this to go my way. I want it the way I wanted it. And what if pride was able to take a back seat? Because of course Leo has a lot of pride, and so with Mercury being the focus there, we have to pay attention to, like, are we sitting too much in our pride with certain conversations? And what if I focused on gratitude, giving compliments, connecting to my inner joy, and being playful instead of being prideful? So again, with the focus point, what we're really wanting to do with this yacht is we want to give it a lot of awareness in terms of, like, how are we interacting with this Mercury in Leo? Are we interacting with it from a denser vibration or from a lighter vibration? Are we interacting with it from a more fearful place or from a place of love and openness and joy? And so these questions that I just posed are really great questions to use for the next 28 days after the new moon becomes exact, because we can really start to get a sense for how we're engaging with that Mercury in Leo energy. And of course, with all the questions, always know that these questions are not there for you to answer them necessarily or to have an answer, but to really allow yourself to align yourself with these particular energies and to really trust your intuition to give you the answers that are required for these next 28 days. Now let's talk about Uranus for a moment. Uranus is another planet, Uranus in Taurus, which also has significance in this new moon chart because it is exalted at the time of the new moon. This started August 5th, or it's starting August 5th, this exalted energy. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Uranus is moving more slowly at the time of the new moon, as it prepares for its yearly retrograde phase that begins on August 19th, and it will remain exalted until September 2nd. Quite a long time, right? So for like 4 weeks, this energy is exalted. And to see how this impacts you personally, feel free to watch my latest webinar, Uranus in Taurus, Exalted, August 2021. I highly recommend this. It can be very helpful, especially since Uranus is currently squaring Saturn in Aquarius. And so if you want to really get a sense for how you can work with these energies more fully and in your best interest, I would recommend watching this webinar if you haven't seen it yet. Now, you can click on the link below this video for more info or to purchase this webinar. If you are currently a star member of my online community, you already received this webinar via email. So please check your email for the MP4 video recording of that webinar. And then let's talk a little bit about Uranus in terms of its exaltation. What does it represent? What does Uranus represent? Uranus highlights where we are called to break old patterns and make radical shifts, both collectively and individually speaking. So ask yourself, what is confronting me at this time around financial freedom, for example, or around practical yet unique approaches to being comfortable and enjoying life? And what might need to break down for me to have a breakthrough? And is there anything in my life that I need to approach with progress in mind? Remember, Uranus definitely wants progress. And Uranus is also once more the focus point of a T-square in this new moon chart, which of course involves Saturn and Aquarius, which that square has been in place since the beginning of the year. But with this new moon chart, it also makes a square to the new moon in Leo, the moon and the sun in Leo. So all of this creates some tension, of course, because whenever you have two squares creating a T-square, that is a good amount of tension. But also it invites us to innovate and to clarify our priorities, what's really, really important to us. Now, we may become anxious or stressed over a situation or interaction involving a group of people, a community, or a network of people out there in the world. So just pay attention to where you're feeling these stresses. And since Uranus represents the spiritual principle of freedom and creative thought and innovation and progress, we are now asked to really stretch and grow by taking a look at our own individualistic spirit and our connection to that. How are we connecting individualistically to ourselves, to our values? And what you can ask yourself here is, what if all change was progress? And really sit with this question, because at first glance, this might be like, well, yeah, of course, change is progress. But is it though? Do we see it that way? Do we see all change as progress? So really be with this question, really meditate. I would really recommend meditating with this question. I think this is a wonderful question to meditate with. What if all change was progress? Now, with Saturn involved in this T-square, we are also invited to acknowledge any restrictions or limitations on our creative self-expression and on our desire for fun and joy that may be restricted by a community or by society in some way. So ask yourself, if I was able to find creative solutions to my current frustrations, what might those be? If I was able to find creative solutions, right? So really we have to in order to be creative, we need to think outside the box. We need to give ourselves some space in order for creativity to take place. So how can we find creative solutions? And what if patience and spaciousness were the key components that are missing? Patience and spaciousness, because spaciousness definitely makes it more easy to have creativity, and patience is often something that we don't have when we feel uncomfortable, when we feel like we want something to move quicker or shift quicker, right? We tend to not be patient. But what if patience was one of the key components? And what if the solution I seek already exists, and I simply need to wait for the perfect moment to be able to access these solutions? So often we think that, when we don't have the answer to a question yet, often we think that we have to, keep finding it. But what if everything already exists? Because the universe is so abundant, it's so vast. We cannot even imagine how big this universe is. Science can't even, capture how big the universe is. So in this huge, vast universe that we live in and that we're part of and that, we're interconnected with, why would there not already be all the solutions there for everything? What makes us think that there's something lacking or something missing at any point in time? So this is just something to contemplate. Like, what if the solutions I seek already exist and I simply needed to wait for the perfect moment to be able to access them? Now, the solution with all T-squares is to focus on the empty leg, in this case, Scorpio. So Uranus, which is the focus point, needs to commune or connect with the Scorpio energy. And here we are invited to bring our innovative spirit, Uranus, right? Innovative spirit to our intimate relationships and financial partnerships, Scorpio. Right? So ask yourself, how could I connect to people who appreciate my individualistic approach? What would it take to have spaciousness within my emotionally authentic and trusted connections? What would it take to have that spaciousness? Uranus wants space. And what might be possible if I embraced all of me, my light and my darkness? Of course, Scorpio always reminds us that there's not just light. In order for there to be light, there has to be dark. And in order for us to really step into our light, we have to embrace our own darkness. So what might be possible if I embraced all of me, my light and my dark? Now, accepting each other's differences is important right now. And as we all have different values, of course, and those values create our preferences, and those preferences determine our comfort zones, right? So everybody has a different comfort zone. Everybody has different preferences and different values. And of course, this is something I've talked about many, many times, because this has so much to do with that Uranus in Taurus squaring that Saturn in Aquarius. So ask yourself, how could I take differences in values less personally? How can I be less afraid of that too, right? Because one part of it is that we might take it personally, like, you're not on my team or you're not on my side if you don't have my values or if you don't have my preferences. That could be one way to look at it. But also, people might get scared when someone doesn't have the same values or the same preferences as them, right? Because then it's like, well, you're not with me, you're against me, right? So there could be a fear component, or if what you're doing is not in alignment with me, then that could harm me, or they could be dangerous for me, right? So we have to pay attention to how we are moving with the differences that we have in values and preferences, because when we're going into this fear spiral and into this place of like, this is not safe or this is not okay for me, then we're creating tremendous separation and adversity for ourselves. So ask yourself, how could I take differences in values less personally? And is it at least possible that I could honor my own differences without making others wrong for theirs? Can I honor, in which way I am different without needing to conform, without needing to, have people approve of these differences? And also at the same token, not making other people wrong for having other differences or having other preferences. And then could I hold the space for other people's fears and comfort levels just a little more than I currently do? And I think this is a very, very beautiful, very powerful question, that if we can just be with that, just with that one question for the next 28 days, I think we've accomplished a lot. So could I hold the space for other people's fears and comfort levels just a little more than I currently do? And that would also honor our own space that we need and our own fears, because we all have fears, we all have them. And to say that you're without fear is like saying that you're not human, because human beings have fear. And it's not about not having fear. It's about, how do we move with fear? Do we acknowledge it? Are we conscious of it? Are we aware that fear is present? And when we are aware, what are we doing with that? Are we allowing ourselves to be run by fear, or to let the fear determine what actions we take? Or are we going to embrace the fear and be kind to ourselves about having fear present, and really kind of take care of ourselves, pamper ourselves, see if we can keep our hearts wide open despite the fact that fear is present. These are all ways in which we can connect and interact with our own fears or other people's fears. Now, another aspect in this new moon chart is Chiron in Aries is making a trine to the new moon. And that's a beautiful aspect. So this creates a supportive environment for healing our insecurities. We can bring greater awareness to our feelings of shame around our wounded masculine energies. For example, that would be something like, not doing enough, not being active enough, not courageous enough, not producing enough, being over assertive or too aggressive. All these things have to do with the wounded masculine. And anything also that we're saying about the wounded masculine or the masculine energies that is self-deprecating or that where we have self-deprecating thoughts or behaviors, right? So anything like that is connected to the wounded masculine. So something else that supports healing our insecurities is a sense that we are pursuing a worthy personal goal. And this could be something as simple as wanting to follow our heart's desire or simply accepting our own human complexities. I mean, we're so complex as human beings. And to think that people are simple is just not true, right? People are complex. So to simply accepting our human complexities while also expressing ourselves creatively or otherwise. So giving ourselves a chance to be expressive within all these different human complexities that makes up all of who we are. So ask yourself, how open can I be to being courageously myself with all my sensitivities and insecurities that are in there somewhere? And how complex could I allow myself to be? Sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to be complex. We want it to be simple. We want to be like, just, I'm this way, and this is what I love about me, and that's how I'm going to be. But that's not real. So a complex person is someone who's capable of really acknowledging all of their different parts and their different complexities. And it's also what makes a human being more beautiful are these complexities. So how about everybody else out there in the world? Could I give other people permission to just be as complex as I am? Could I give them permission? And you have to remember, sometimes we oversimplify, right? Because sometimes we look at other people and go, oh, they're this way. You might look at me watching this video and go, oh, Sonja is this and this and this and this. But of course, I'm a human being, which means I have so many sides to myself that you might not even be able to see just from watching my videos. Only people that know me very, very well will be able to see all of those sides. My husband, my best friend, people in my family, like people that know me inside out will see all of these complexities much more so than, if you just having a very simple relationship with someone that doesn't allow for all of these complexities to take place. But that doesn't mean that the complexities are not there. So we have to remember complexities. It's human, it's normal. Everybody has them, even if we don't see them necessarily on everybody else, right? So honor your own complexities. Lastly, I just want to mention Mars in Virgo, right? That's another important planet in this new moon chart because it is squaring the current moon nodes in Gemini and Sagittarius. And the moon nodes, of course, represent our collective and individual soul's journey. So Mars squaring these moon nodes, that marks an important turning point for us collectively and individually speaking. And so we are invited to make a perceptual shift in order to move forward with something. And we have to make this shift or this turning point happens in our day-to-day activities, in our day-to-day work routines or day-to-day health routines, somehow in our activities that we have in our day-to-day life. And we are invited to balance gathering or processing information against going beyond what we have accumulated to a higher perspective, one that elevates our understanding of our current situation. So whatever our current situation is, we're really being invited to kind of like, what else is there to learn, and how can we raise our perspective to, or elevate our perspective to a much higher understanding, the bigger picture view of something, while still accumulating more and more information. So ask yourself, what might become possible for me if I got really clear about what works in my daily routine and what doesn't? And could I give myself permission to venture beyond my current daily routine? Can I give myself permission to go beyond what that routine currently is? And how might it serve me to adopt a positive attitude towards experimentation? And this is very important. We want to keep an open mind or an open heart towards experimentation. And what if I coupled that experimentation with simply staying curious, open-minded, right? Open-hearted, open-minded, flexible, adaptable. How can we stay adaptable? And how do my day-to-day activities contribute to the connection between my mind, my body, my feelings, my spirit? And how do my actions keep me separate from others, from myself, my body, my heart? So we want to look at both sides of the coin, right? We want to look at, how do my actions contribute, and how do they keep me separate? Because sometimes, with the Virgo energy, there is a wanting to be of service, which is very much about contribution. But there also is sometimes, on a more denser level, there is a wanting to keep ourselves separate because we know better, or we are better, or because we have information that's more important than other people. And so that kind of keeps us separate from other people. And of course, when we're separate from others, we're also separate from ourselves, because the separation doesn't happen in a vacuum. Whenever we're separating ourselves from other people, we're also separating ourselves from a part of ourselves, because we are all interconnected. So we have to remember that. The separation goes in a lot of different directions. And of course, our body, our heart needs to feel connected. And of course, this is a great place for me to invite you to also check out my new interview series, How to Deal with Uncertainty and Change, because I discuss a holistic approach to life's challenges with all kinds of wonderful practitioners and teachers. And I really love this interview series because it gives us the opportunity to really get a more rounded point of view about what does it mean to have a holistic approach. What does it mean to not just operate on a mental level, to not just operate on a physical level, but to connect the physical with the mental, with the emotional, with the spiritual. So you can get free access to this series on my website or on my YouTube channel. And if you haven't had a chance yet to watch any of the episodes, please check them out, and feel free to post your feedback or a comment on the comment section on my website or on my YouTube channel. I really always appreciate those. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you think we can improve what we're doing. And if you want to share these interview series with other people, please go ahead and do that, so that more people can have access to that information and how to have a better understanding of a holistic approach in life with themselves and with other people. Now, with this Mars square to the moon nodes, we may also feel a pull between introversion and extroversion, going within and wanting to reach out, or simply between fast and slow. So if you feel such a pull, ask yourself, could I simply tune in for a moment and see if I need to take a break, or at least just slow down a little bit? And just check in with your energy level, right? If you check in with your energy level, it will give you the exact answer that you need in order to know whether you're moving too fast or too slow, right? Just check in with your energy body. So to sum it all up for this new moon invites us to reconnect to what lights us up, to what we love, and how we want to express that in the world, even if that feels uncomfortable at times. And it also wants us to consider working within the framework of what is realistic at this time, staying grounded in reality, remaining conscious about what we can and cannot do. So for the next 4 weeks, I also invite you to pause occasionally and ask yourself these questions. What am I grateful for in my life? And how could I express that gratitude? And to whom? And could I express my joy directly and honestly? And how could I go about engaging others in a joyful dialogue that aligns with my inner truth? So feel free to really use the coaching questions, of course, in the next 28 days. And if you do have an ascendant or any personal planets in 14 to 18 degrees of Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio, then this new moon, of course, will impact you more than other people. But even if you don't have planets or points in those degrees and signs, take a look at your natal chart and just look to see where does 16 degrees of Leo land in my natal chart, in my birth chart, because that house placement of the new moon will indicate which area of life is more ready for a new beginning for the next 28 days. And of course, also in connection with what we talked about in the video. You can also check out my 30-minute class, How to Read Your Birth Chart. You can get free access via my homepage at astrologercoach.com. If you just scroll down to free class. And actually, one more thing I want to mention here as well is right now I have my intro to soul-based astrology available for free to everybody. So if you want to watch, that's a 60-minute class. If you want to watch that 60-minute class on my website or on my YouTube channel, feel free to check that out. It's a really wonderful class that talks about astrology, and in particular soul-based astrology, and how it can really support you. And there's also some great information about the moon word, of course, and houses and some other things. So feel free to watch that class if you haven't seen it yet. Now, before we talk about new moon intentions, let me just quickly say we will talk about the next full moon, which is also a blue moon, and the upcoming Mercury shadow phase in September in relationship to our own birth charts in my next forecasting forum on August 20th. So feel free to join us live or register for the MP4 video presentation of the live event if the day and time doesn't work for you. And if you're not yet a star member of my online community, feel free to join us by registering for just this month only. There will be a link below this video for you to do so. And there's also an early bird special that is available until August 17th at midnight, New York time. So take advantage of that if you are not currently a star member. Star members are automatically registered and they get a very special price. So if you want to connect with these monthly forecasting forums on a more regular basis, then take a look at the star membership. All right, and last but definitely not least, we will talk about the new moon intentions. So you can set some powerful intentions for every moon cycle, and you want to do that after the new moon becomes exact, not before, and definitely not during a moon void of course phase, because the moon void of course doesn't lend itself very well to getting the results that we want if we're setting intentions. So we want to make sure that we're avoiding those times. So this month, the best and most potent time to set intentions would be anytime between 9:50 a.m. on August 8th and 9:50 a.m. on August 10th. These is a 48-hour period in which is the most potent time to set intentions. The only exception will be a roughly 2.5-hour time period on August 9th between 8:23 a.m. and 10:56 a.m. Because during that time, the moon will be void of course, which of course, as I said, is not the perfect time to be setting your intentions. And as always, all the times that I just gave are New York time zone. If you live in a different time zone than US East Coast time, I recommend that you either join my Facebook fan page or follow me on Twitter. I will be posting reminders on August 8th, 9th, and 10th to let you know when it is the most potent time to set your intentions. So you can, when you see those reminders pop up, you can just sit down and set your intentions at that point. And for more information about setting intentions, if you've never done that before, click on the link below this video. There will be a link that tells you how to get to my article on my website about setting intentions. Now, to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, you can do that via my homepage at astrologercoach.com, or you can email us at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. My newsletter offers the monthly new moon videos, special offers, announcements about webinars or courses or retreats or anything like that. Now, if you have any general questions about astrology or the new moon, feel free to ask me anytime, info@astrologercoach.com. If you have any personal questions that require of me to take a look at your birth chart or pull up your birth chart, book a reading via my website, astrologercoach.com, or if you have any questions that are connected to what's coming up within the next 30 to 40 days, join the next monthly forecasting forum on August 20th. You always get a chance to ask questions in advance as well if you can't join live. Again, we will focus on the upcoming Mercury shadow phase in September, as well as the blue moon on August 22nd. So my members, of course, will see me in 2 weeks around the time of the full moon, so we can look at how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions. And everyone else in about 4 weeks from now for the next new moon. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fantastic new moon. Remember, it's an introverted time. Stay wholehearted and healthy. And if you need support in any way, feel free to reach out. Much love. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.